I'd like to welcome Latoya Thompson today, and she's from Australia. I visited there over 3 years ago, and I fell in love with the country, having believed I'd never want to go there. It was never on my bucket list, but it's just an amazing place, and I'm so sad that I can't go back yet at the moment. But I met Latoya, and she is the author of Beauty in the Darkness. She's also a single mum to 4 children. She's been a wife, an ex-wife, a stylist, beautician. She's a friend, a daughter, an enemy, and a victim. And I think that is such an open way of introducing yourself to anybody, because so many people would not want that vulnerability to had that about them. But you are very, very open, Latoya, and we've chatted before. So I'm going to hand over to you, and please introduce yourself and tell us more about you.
Yeah, so I like to call it the ever evolving introduction, because I feel like we're always, as humans, growing and changing and unapologetically releasing things. But yeah, like you said, I'm a woman, a mother, a single mom to 4 beautiful kids. I have been a beauty therapist and a wedding stylist, and my long-awaited dream of becoming an author. So I've finally written my book. Where to start? Wow. I guess we'll start talking about why I've written Beauty in the Darkness, and that was I grew up feeling really lost. I never fit in. I didn't know who I was. I didn't trust myself. I was so disconnected. And it was really confronting and lonely, and I kind of went through life living in a detrimental survival mode.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess my path has been, obviously, like many people, had challenges and struggles and all the rest of it. Starting, I guess, from when I was born, I never connected to my mom. We didn't really have a loving exchange or relationship. I grew up craving that so deeply, though, and just wanting to be accepted and to feel loved from her. And as you can imagine, as a young child, and that's your kind of your foundation, and not having that, you do start to question yourself, and there isn't much of a self-worth, because it does become dependent upon the opinions or acceptance or love of somebody else.
Of course, and we so crave that love and acceptance from a parent. That child needs that, don't they, so badly? So absolutely. I imagine, I remember myself just thinking, why am I so unlovable?
Yeah, you do. You want, and then you try and change or adapt or conform to something that you feel is going to be accepted or loved or heard, I guess. And it starts such a ripple of inner turmoil and self-doubt and a really low self-esteem and self-worth. And you don't even realize it at the time. You wouldn't even begin to comprehend those types of things as a child, really.
No, definitely not. You just think that's the normal, don't you? Well, that's obviously that's how life is. So you can't figure out why. But everybody else around you seems to be okay. But I don't know about you, but I thought I was on the outside of everything.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And you sit there and you wonder what's wrong with you and why you don't fit, or why you can't find your place, and it becomes like an internal battle of self. And we really start to, I guess it's an abandonment of self at such a young age. And from there, all of your relationships then start to mirror that. And you subconsciously call that in, and that's where I went. I always had this visualization in my head from a little child that once I find my husband or my man and have kids, then I'll fit, then I'll find my happy family, then I'll have a place. And it wasn't the case. I was attracting these people that were really, I guess, mirroring what I needed to work on within myself. So that led to like abusive relationships or controlling relationships, relationships that didn't truly see me or get to know who I was. It was purely at a face value or what they wanted me to be. And it led me through some pretty dark paths. And to be honest, I got to a point 2 years ago now, where I sat there and I hated myself so much that I turned to self-harm. And I remember that very night and just repeating to myself over and over, like, no wonder nobody loves you. Look at you. Like, what are you? And it was in that spot that I thought, what is going on? Why is my life like this? Why do I repeatedly call in these people and find myself in these situations where I'm being hurt or ignored or invalidated or not accepted? So it was a confronting time, and I really had to sit and I call it face the mirror, because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
You know, that and work out, okay, these people are here to teach me something, and I'm clearly missing the picture because it's happening over and over and over. And when I really sat with it and I started saying, okay, well, this is what I didn't like. I didn't like how he did this to me, or I didn't like how he made me feel. If I sat there and removed a few layers, I was like, well, I actually do that to myself, or I feel that way about myself. And realized that I was merely just attracting what I was energetically putting out there. Even in the abusive relationships, you know, I subconsciously would abuse myself every time I looked in that mirror, and I would pick apart my body, or, you know, I would ignore myself and not accept myself every time I tried to conform to somebody else's opinion, or would silence my voice and my truth. And it's confronting, and it's horrible to realize that you had been at the core reason of all of this past trauma and pain and suffering. And it really came down to ways in which I needed to love myself more.
Wow. So that must have been quite a difficult time, actually, as you say, looking in the mirror and kind of taking off that kind of, I can't find the words right now, but it's removing the shield that was there, or the what was there, peeling it back, isn't it? It's almost as though there was a veil over the mirror. That's what I was looking for, the word. And just removing that can be quite challenging.
Yeah. And just finding that acceptance of, wow, I've never really known unconditional love. Even the love upon myself and the love I've received has always been conditional. And it took some really brutal lessons from the universe for me to sit there and go, oh, okay, I'm listening now. Like with my fourth son during my pregnancy, I was horrifically sick, and I ended up being hospitalized on and off for the entire 9 months.
Wow.
They put me on some really heavy medication to keep food and fluid within my body and keep Bubby alive. And that had me going, I know it's different weight measures where you are, but basically in Australia, I started my pregnancy at 57 kilos. And when I gave birth, I was 110. So this medication doubled my body weight.
Wow.
And then seeing myself after he was born, I was just like unrecognizable. And I looked at myself, and all of this inner stuff also came out, and I just thought, I'm not this person. I can't be this person. I despise this person. Like,
gosh.
yeah. So it was hard. My marriage was falling apart at the time as well, and I nearly lost my son at birth to a lung. He had a collapsed lung, so he needed a lot of surgery.
Wow.
And was in intensive care for 2 weeks. And I had 3 kids at home, and I just went into survival mode, and I did what I'd known how to do, and that was just like suppress, and let's keep going, because my kids need me right now and my marriage needs me. Yeah, and I got to a point where I think the weight of 30 odd years was just, it was too much, and everything just boiled out. So from there, I sat for a good 3 years in shadow work and depression, and just really starting to dig into the darker aspects of myself. And I thought, that's where I need to start, and that's what I need to accept and learn to love, because these things are human. We all feel them. And quite frankly, I felt they needed more freaking airtime, because I got to a point, I was like, we don't share this stuff. And then we sit at home, and that's when the anxiety and depression spirals out of control, because we think that we're the only ones going through this, and that there is something wrong with us. So yeah, amidst my darkest hour, I kind of went, I'm done. I'm closing my business down, and I'm using my platform now to share my struggles, because I do not want another woman feeling the way that I feel in this very moment. And I've done that ever since.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And when you talked about being open to show your dark side or darker side, I think so many people are fearful of showing that, or even acknowledging that shadow side of their personality. And that's when I introduce you, because you're very open, and that is acknowledging all those parts of you. And you know, when I talk, sometimes I'll say to clients, you know, we've all got parts of us, and we're not perfect. And I freely admit, you know, I could be a bitch. That's inside me. I've got a caring side. I've got all of that. I've got a stubborn side. But I've also, I can be a bitch, and acknowledging that, because it makes us the whole person. We can't just have that, I don't know, when I see somebody who's just nice all the time, or appears to be nice all the time, I don't believe they are being true to themselves.
Authentic,
being authentic. And I think growing up, we can't be authentic, because especially if we're in an abusive kind of, if our parents are abusive, or they're not connecting with us, or we're not getting the love, because we crave that so much that we give up being authentic to be attached to them, or try and be attached to them.
Yeah.
And that follows us into our adulthood, doesn't it? So it's
absolutely, yeah.
But I think so many people, they say, oh, I don't want to talk about this. It's too shaming. It's too embarrassing. Well, so many of us have been on that journey, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I feel like it definitely needs more airtime, because we do have to love ourselves equally, and that includes the lighter parts of ourselves, but also the darker parts. And I'll never forget, one day I realized, I was like, you know what? It's okay to love someone so much, but hate them so much at the exact same time. Both feelings are equally as valid, and we have to feel them. Like, it's human. We are not going to heal through ignorance. We really need to just allow that stuff to flow, acknowledge it, love it, so we can let it go and grow from it. Because I've learned the hard way what happens when we ignore those darker parts of ourselves in fear of, oh, that's not going to make me a very nice person, or that's going to deter me off my spiritual path, or like whatever reason we are conditioned to believe. but it actually does the opposite, and it puts us further and further into resistance, and that holds as like physical injury or illness within our bodies, and it has such a spiral effect. And that's one of the huge points in my book. Is I speak about, it's a spiritual self-help memoir, I guess. However, when I was going through my the darkest times, I reached out to a few books, and I just found I couldn't relate. It was so love and light and positivity, and every page I turned, I went, okay, no, seriously, something's wrong with me, because I can't do this. Like,
yeah.
So I went, and that's when I kind of went, no, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to write a book about that's not how it is. Like, it's actually horrible, and it's dark, and it's painful, and sometimes the healing is worse than the trauma itself.
Yeah.
But once you work through that, it is so liberating and empowering. And I never ever thought, if you said to me 2 years ago that I would be sitting here and saying how much I unconditionally love myself, I would have told you were crazy. But I've gotten to a point now where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm like, I can just wholeheartedly honor every single aspect that makes me who I am, whilst also accepting that I might not be that person tomorrow or the day after. Like, it's ever evolving, it's always changing, and we just need to meet ourselves in all of the spaces and allow ourselves to be seen and heard, regardless of what it comes across as. Letting go of those connotations, I guess, that we do place on emotions and feelings and spaces within our lives.
Yeah. And I picked up on when you were saying, you know, we have to go to that dark place, and you were reading those books, and they were all about positivity and so on. And I really feel quite strongly about that. All you have to do is to think positive thoughts, and everything will be fine. It really isn't always. You know, you can't be that positive. You've got to find the darker parts and acknowledge them and grow from those. And if you're just thinking positive, I think it can lead to that depression that you went through. I've suffered depression in the past, and you're just suppressing your feelings and pushing them down, and they're just eating away at us, aren't they, inside? And they haven't got a voice, but you need to get it out and let it go, as you said.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that used to get to me was someone within my life at the time used to say to me, step out of victim mode. And I used to see that, and obviously in a lot of spiritual teaching they do the whole thing too, you know, I was living in victim mode, and I used to feel so horribly about that and be like, okay, I'm stuck here, like I need to just shift my mindset, what's wrong with me? And then I got to a point where I was like, no, my victim needs my love right now. And I'm just going to sit here and allow her to wallow, like as long as it takes, because she clearly just wants to be heard, so she can then feel that love and acceptance and be like, okay, I'm good now, we can go. Like, so I hate that. I hate the whole, the victim mode mentality, or words that place us and make us feel like the things that we're experiencing or the things that are coming up for us are wrong or negative, or because they're not. We need to sit in those spaces.
And they're all parts of our personality. They're all parts of us now, or they were in the past, or they'll come up. And I really love acknowledging all the parts of us. And I sometimes do work. It's kind of like parts therapy, and it is you have a meeting with all your parts, and you have an agenda and decide, okay, what's the problem, and what is each part feeling? And it could be the child, it could be the victim, it could be the stubborn, it could be the strong, it could be any other part, you know. And you just say, well, how are you feeling? You talk to each part, and which parts can help the other. I think it's really quite powerful when you acknowledge that okay, that little voice, that child within me feels really scared and frightened. And what does she need? Well, she
Yeah.
needs love and attention. So which part of me can offer that? And it can
Mm.
be the adult, it can be the loving mother figure, whatever else that we
Yeah.
didn't get as that child. Yeah.
I do that with my kids now, and I'll often say, you know, and where in your body are you feeling it? Like if he'll say, I feel sad, I'm like, okay, and where in your body is feeling sad? And, you know, often I am a firm believer in that we have everything within us to heal ourselves. And I truly believe in intention and energy and all the rest of it. So often he'll go, oh, I feel sad in my throat, or I feel sad in my tummy. I'm like, okay, well, put your hands there, you know, like let's put our hands there. Let's acknowledge that we're feeling sad in our throat, and let's love that space right now. Or, you know, let's just let them know that they're safe and they're allowed to feel sad. And if we have to cry, let's cry. Like,
Yeah.
but it's those spaces that we don't often give ourselves as adults. And I know we do all live such fast-paced lives.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not possible just to stop and cry. I actually went for a walk along the beach the other day, and I don't even know what came over me, but I instantly went, oh my gosh, I just need to I feel like I'm gonna cry. And my like human side just went, you're at the beach and everyone is like, you can't just cry. And so I started to suppress it, and I was like, Latoya, just vibe high, like you just come on, like we can get through this. And I just felt like this really masculine energy, like just start to come over my body. And I felt quite unwell. And I just thought, you know what? Sometimes we do, like a lot of people put on that high vibration thing is all love and light too. And I had to sit there and remind myself in that moment, I was like, you crying is actually a beautiful vibration, because you are being vulnerable. You are allowing your body to set that free. And who cares? So I sat in the middle of a really busy beach and I just looked out at the ocean and I just sobbed. And no one really even looked twice, but I felt incredible afterwards.
Yeah.
And I just thought we really need to let go of this whole mentality that those things are like not, you know, negative, or that they're embarrassing or socially unacceptable or whatever. Like we all feel it.
Yeah.
We all go through it. It just needs more of a voice.
It does. And I think you're so right when you talk about suppressing those feelings. I can't get angry, I can't be sad, I can't cry. It's right now I've got clients who, because I can't work face to face at the moment, but they're saying, I'd rather do telephone because I don't want you to see me crying. I think, oh, that's so sad, because we all cry and it's a release, as you say, and that's what our body's talking to us. And trying to suppress all those all the time, it will come out in another form, as you say, and it is with damaging ourselves.
Yeah. We can resist. I literally did a little spiel on my social Instagram the other day and just said, our soul contract and our soul path will always remain, but it is whether we choose to resist or whether we surrender, which determines the way we get there. So we're going to have to front up and face these things one way or another. You can try and suppress it or resist it for as long as you want, but it's coming out.
It does, yeah. And I think the sad part is that people don't recognize it. And then what happens is that their body will come out physically. And I don't think people recognize that the illnesses they have are a manifestation of their emotional dis-ease.
Yeah.
And I'm using that, not disease, dis-ease. And and they just don't connect the two. And yet I've seen it so many times over the years where people have got a physical illness. When did that start? And it was normally when there was a huge trauma going on in their lives, and their body just manifested in that way.
I was the heaviest I've ever been throughout my abusive relationship, and I did everything. I was working out. I went to the doctor after Bub and got like weight loss medication. I was eating healthy. I ended up in my darkest time starving myself, and I was like, what is going on? Like, why am I not losing this weight? And once I started to heal and delve into self-love, I realized that my body was that far in survival mode. It was hanging on to whatever it could. Because as soon as I let go of my husband at the time, and I kind of just went, I've got to honor myself now and start respecting myself. I can't be in this situation anymore. Within maybe like 4 weeks, I'd lost 10 kilos. Like, it just, and it was my body just literally saying to me, we're keeping you safe right now. We're surviving, and we're just holding on to whatever we can to keep you going. And then as soon as I was able to set things free that were causing me all of this trauma and pain, everything within my life just started to flow. My work picked up. I finished writing my book and sent it out to editing and all the rest of it. My physical body, and that's not saying that there weren't horribly dark times, but amidst all of this, I really started to see so much beauty and incredible light within that darkness and those lessons that I'd been through. And hence, then beauty in the darkness sort of came, because I was like, I'm so grateful for everything I went through, because without it, I don't think I could sit here and say, that I am in a place of unconditional love for myself, that I am so thankful that I had experiences like the relationships and growing up with a narcissistic mom, and I went through things like being sexually assaulted and date raped and scenarios like that, and every single one of them now I look back and I'm like, I'm so thankful that I was put in those situations because of the space that I'm sitting in right now. And every single scenario had something really beautiful to teach me.
Gosh, it's incredible. Is your book published? Is it available?
Hopefully soon.
Good. So people need to keep in touch with you to find out when it's out and published. I'd love to read it, certainly. So
so I share online. I have a blog online which I continue to share the things that come up for me and the stuff I'm learning along the way, and on social media and things like that. So I'm active on there, and then hopefully 2021 will be the year that I can share that with everybody else. I do have a free ebook on my website as well, and that's all about like intuitive healing and shadow work and rituals and just practices that can support us along the way. Because like I said, I am a really firm believer in the fact that we don't need to seek anything externally. Everything is already alive within us. We just need to find those pockets of stillness to allow ourselves to simply be. And then all of that is just going to find its way to us.
Great. And all your website and contact details will be in the show notes anyway, so people can find you there. What is one thing that you'd like to share with people now that they can take away and, maybe start working on themselves
Again, I think it's just simply that we don't need to seek anything externally. One of the biggest and most beautiful things that I did in order to support myself was I literally just sat in front of a mirror and I just sat there and released all expectations, and I just looked within my own eyes and allowed what needed to come up. And I truly believe that we as individuals and souls do, a lot of our relationships hold a mirror to the things that we really need to sit with and work on. So, and that's one of the things I talk about in my ebook as well, is mirror work and how to sit there and just hold yourself with love and send yourself love. And it's amazing what things will just present themselves to you, whether it be a memory or a word, even a word, and just a message that you kind of need to delve into a little deeper. But yes, it's that I believe that our soul and our intuition have all of the answers that we need.
If only we'd listen.
Exactly. We just need to listen.
And not push it aside. I think too often we push it aside.
Yeah.
As we've said.
We can go see as many healers and therapists and whatever as we want. However, you know, we only have the answers, and yes, they can help us create spaces to tap into them, which is great, but ultimately the work is up to us.
Absolutely. Great. So one easy way that people can get in touch with you, Latoya.
So I'm probably the easiest would be Instagram, which my handle is Latoya Jade, Jade. So my Instagram is where I'm most active, and then the website is just latoyajade.com, and that's where my blog is, and a lot of updates and videos and podcast links and all the rest of it.
Fabulous. I really enjoyed listening to your story today, and I hope the listeners have too. It's been a fascinating story, and how beautiful that you found that love for yourself through all of that. And I think that's amazing, and definitely some things that many people need to hear much more of. So thank you very much.